For decades, there's been this one conflict that has really defined so much of the modern Middle East. I'm talking about the intense and, seemingly endless standoff between the United States and Iran. It's a wild story of how allies became bitter enemies, and today, we're going to break down how it all happened.
So you're scrolling through the news, and you see it again, the US and Iran. It just feels like this constant, locked-in hostility. You gotta ask, why? It can seem impossibly complicated, but the answer, as we're about to see, really rests on just a few core pillars. So let's dive in.
So here's our game plan. We're going to pinpoint the one single event that honestly changed everything. Then we'll get into the key pillars of the conflict as it stands today, look at just how close they've come to war, and finally, ask what the future could possibly hold.
All right, to really get what's going on today, we have to jump in a time machine and go back to one single seismic year that just shattered the old order and completely rewrote the rules of the entire relationship.
Just take a look at this. It's a total 180. Before 1979, the US and Iran, they were partners. The US was a huge supporter of Iran's ruler, the Shah. But here's the thing. For a lot of Iranians, the Shah was seen as this repressive dictator, basically propped up by the West. So the 1979 Islamic Revolution wasn't just about overthrowing him. It was a furious rejection of American influence. Bam! In a single revolutionary moment, a strategic ally became a sworn adversary. That one event, it's the origin story for everything we're going to talk about today.
So that revolution, it wasn't just some historical blip. It had these massive aftershocks, these lasting consequences. And those consequences are what make up the three main pillars of conflict that define the US-Iran relationship right now.
Okay, first up, and this is the big one, the most high-stakes pillar, Iran's nuclear program. It is a constant source of global tension and, for the United States, is a top-tier security concern.
And this right here, this is the core of the problem. You've got the US and its allies who are deeply worried that Iran is secretly trying to build a nuclear bomb. On the other side, Iran insists, nope, our program is just for peaceful energy. This deep, fundamental distrust has fueled years and years of tense negotiations, crippling sanctions, even covert actions. It's a conflict built almost entirely on what each side believes the other might do.
But this whole thing isn't just a face-off between two nations. Oh no, it spills out across the entire region. This brings us to pillar number 2, a geopolitical chess match that's being played out all across the Middle East.
This visual really breaks it down, doesn't it? The US and Iran are basically leading opposing teams, backing different governments, different militias. And this turns local conflicts into what we call proxy wars. It's where each side fights for influence through their local partners. I mean, think about the war in Yemen. The US supports the Saudi-led coalition, while Iran backs the Houthi rebels. They aren't shooting at each other directly, but they are absolutely fueling a devastating war from opposite sides of the board.
Okay, so we've got the nuclear issue, we've got the regional power struggle. Now let's talk about the money. Pillar number 3 is all about the primary economic weapon in this conflict, sanctions. Because when direct military action is way too risky, economic pressure becomes the tool of choice.
So what exactly are economic sanctions? Well, think of them as financial penalties. They're designed to punish and isolate a country's economy, cutting it off from global trade and finance to pressure its government to change course.
And you better believe the US has used them. A lot. And with powerful effect. The goal is always to try and cripple Iran's economy, to limit the money it has for its nuclear program and its activities across the region. It's this constant grinding pressure on the Iranian economy.
But, economic and political pressure is one thing. What happens when this long standoff gets, dangerous? When it gets close to boiling over into an actual fight? This brings us to the military dimension of the conflict.
This phrase right here, it just says it all. This isn't a full-blown war. It's more of a persistent, low-level conflict. We're talking attacks on ships, drone strikes, clashes between proxy forces. Each side does something, and the other side feels it has to respond, creating this super dangerous tit-for-tat cycle that always risks spinning out of control.
And if you want a perfect, terrifying example of this, look no further than 2020. The US killed one of Iran's most powerful and, frankly, revered military leaders, General Qasem Soleimani. This was a massive escalation that brought the two nations closer to a direct, all-out war than they had been in decades. It really shows you just how volatile this whole standoff can be.
Okay, so let's take a breath. We've gone through the history, the big points of conflict, the military risks. Now let's connect all the dots and really summarize what defines this long, difficult arc of enmity.
So when you boil it all down, what do you get? It's really like this toxic cocktail, right? You start with a fundamental historical break from 1979. You pour in a deep, complicated nuclear dispute. You stir in a regional power struggle, and you top it all off with economic warfare and the constant simmering threat that things could get very hot very fast.
And that just leaves us with this one final, really big question. This rivalry has outlasted American presidents and Iranian supreme leaders for over 40 years. The structures of this conflict are so deeply entrenched. So the question isn't just what happens next, but what, if anything,